Hey Olivia, how's it going?
Yeah.
What's been happening on your side? What you been up to?
Oh, restarting with my big client and getting a
What's
bit
going on with
crazy.
it?
Huh?
What's going on? What do you mean you're starting with the big one? Just
Oh,
lost.
no. I restarted because I had a month holiday with my big French Canadian client. So
Right,
it's
right.
it's funny to see how the team without you is running, and it's not. So it's
Oh
yes.
man.
Don't get me started, but yeah, that's okay. Just it just make me appreciate even more the kind of workshop, like, because with what you say that I can go further in 30 days when that's I
Yeah,
need to go further and get rid of part of the job of operational there because it drives me nuts.
yeah.
Hey,
Is
good
this
money. I'm grateful for the money, but for the rest,
is this the guy that's in Quebec, or is this the guy that's in Cape Town, or is this
no,
different?
the one in Quebec. No, the one in Cape Town. Everything is moving really good, and I'm even thinking about using AI Studio to, because I know that he's been swamped, the guy from Cape Town, now with installation projects. He's doing like 500,000 just on Q4 in contract,
Hmm.
and he's like he's getting drowned on making the quotes and stuff. And I really want to take some time to pick his brain, dive into his process, and be able to, help with automation and stuff like that to streamline that process in Go
Yeah,
High Level. And so, like that, once again, it's getting deeper embedded in his processes, and yeah, that's gonna be the good thing. And then after, he wants in 2027 to open a production unit in South Africa. Now
so
the project is gonna be, he's gonna have the money to be able to finance most of the project himself, and then to have one investor in it at a
mhm.
lower percentage. So I have my buddy, which is like my partner, which is the engineer, that is very good in project management, and I think together we can do something really good for that as well, to create the proper dashboard,
Yeah,
and all the good things to be able to manage that as well, and like even the management of the installation team, like, I think that there is plenty of things we can put in place in Go High Level to help him manage his teams
hmm,
properly. So yeah, all these kind of things, I think that's gonna help us grow him into a bigger client. And yeah, and then I want to go AI employee on full speed on AI employee.
yeah.
That's gonna be it.
It sounds as if there's a lot of opportunity that's going to come as a result of this guy, right? It sounds like he's
Yeah, but because he's doing himself a lot of things. He's got a plantation of vanilla in Madagascar. He's got his fingers in some diamond dealer mine. I know that he was, because as an intermediary. He's in a lot of business as an intermediary, because he's been in Africa for a long time, and then he's got a network of people, and he's a bit between Europe and South Africa. He's a bit the intermediary on people who wants copper and stuff like that as well. He knows people who have mines and stuff, and they are looking for him to help make deals. So he's,
yeah,
he's getting like commission left and right with that kind of things, and so he's able to develop his own business that way. So it's a
yeah.
good to have a serial entrepreneurs like that, because then if you can bring them the tech support they and marketing support they expect, then you've a guy, and then they come back to you on a
Yeah,
regular
completely
basis.
agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree. I think with that particular market, I see a lot of that as well, and not from a client perspective, more so from a
Mhm.
friend perspective. I've got a lot of friends from Zimbabwe and
Yeah.
from South Africa in general, and the opportunities that they come to you with are a little bit left field sometimes.
Yeah,
I've had
sometimes you have to be careful on
yeah,
the, yes.
I've had the one, I've had diamond mines and things like that. I've had that come across my desk, and
Mhm.
I've had chicken farms that sell chicken and things like that to grocery stores and
Mhm.
everywhere. It's different. It's very different in terms of the opportunities that come across your desk. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Not the same old, same old. That's
No.
that's the usual stuff. But I've just let a few more people in here.
Yeah, but what I find it very interesting as well is what I was explaining. For when I see AI Studio, Ask AI, and AI agents, I'm really thinking about like, okay, uh, how much you can, instead of, I came across a video, the guy was explaining, instead of selling just a website, if you can sell a website which does something very specific in their niche to bring the value way up on attracting the lead and converting the lead, then it's a completely different conversation.
You mean like basically selling an entire online functioning business, I suppose, sort of kind of like
just
that.
to give you an example, they were showing that with a bride dress shop.
Yeah.
Okay. And they came on the website of the lady, and she had a horrible booking system. But instead of just replacing a booking system and making a new website, what he did in 1 week, he developed a system that basically allow to get like in a mini CRM, the person booked, but then to attach to that person different model of dresses that they got from different brands. And because they got the video and the picture of the dress from the brands themselves, what they did as well is that when they have the appointment, they have a big screen, and then they can click on something and it launch a presentation which has been created in the system, which basically say welcome with the name and stuff. And then it's gonna bring a complete experience where they show the video of dress number one, and if they want to see more, they click and they see all the picture of it. Instead of going into a web shop where you have the price and it's very dry, then there they create a whole experience for the person when she can focus on that, and it's all done on the back end. And the guy it took him a week to develop that. He was doing it at $250 a month as a subscription for that person, but with that he can sell that to the whole niche, basically. You know
what would be really cool with that, just as an idea, what you could do with that is you could take, obviously the idea with that is to help the bride see themselves in that dress online, right? But if you take there's a software out there, I mean, you could use Seed Dance, or you could use lots of other,
like put them in.
You could have like a full 360 experience of that bride, what they would look like in a packed church or at the reception, or all these different kind of shots. You could have that, and that would be incredible. I can imagine high-end bridal shops paying a fortune for something like that, for sure. I think that'd be cool. That'd be really, really cool. I might look.
That's just to see. It's like seeing, like, okay, what can I go the extra step to build a tool that will be inside the process, but that really brings extra value, that they're gonna stay with it for like the long run. So
exactly. Now again, I've got some ideas actually triggering in my mind, because even like the printing stuff, right? They all do mock-ups that are just like, it's as if you've put, I don't know, like it's like the worst mock-up you've ever seen of just a t-shirt that does not look real at all, and with a little picture stuck on. Where do you want the design? Imagine that you could have the whole fabric. I think you could do a lot of stuff with that. But interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. All right. I'll dive in. I'll kick off the training for the day, and I think I'll let people in as we progress. I'm sure there'll be a couple more that come in as we go, as there always are. Today's training is going to be a little bit different. I'll open up for Q&A at the end of this call. Any questions that you have, anything, doesn't have to be about this. It can be about anything at all that you're working on. Happy to open up the room to Q&A. But today's training is going to be a little bit different in the sense that I'm going to show you an AI process that I use personally on a daily basis. And, you know, one of the key attributes to success is always being able to show up when you don't feel like it, right? Being able to execute on the days that don't feel great. And honestly, not every day feels great. It's hard. You know, we work around the clock, and some days it's hard. Like some days you wake up and you're tired and you haven't had enough sleep, but you just have to keep executing, doing the same thing. And some days, you know, you've been doing the same thing for 3 months And yeah, you might be seeing the outcome, the reward, but it's tired, still exhausting. How do you continue that? How do you keep going? Well, I've got a little bit of a, it's not so much a hack as such, it's a process that I use. Yeah, absolutely, Ruben. Burnout is a big one, and I guess I'm in a permanent sense of burnout, so I can completely relate to you. But it's how do we show up every day to do this? And I'm going to show you the process that I use. Actually, it's a process where we use ChatGPT or GenSpark a little bit differently. Now, I have actually prepared a tool for you at the end of this call that I'm going to release. Now, I couldn't build it on ChatGPT because they don't allow you, since February, they don't allow you to basically have public tools anymore. GenSpark still do. So I've built it on GenSpark. You don't need an account for it. You can use it at no cost. And without even, I think you may have to sign up for a free account, but it's free, right? There's not, you don't pay anything. I also have an SOP for the process on ChatGPT if you want to do it yourself. And there's a slightly different process. So what I'm showing you today is two different processes. And one is essentially a tool that we've built that will help you understand what the inverse framework actually is, what that word or that phrase you're seeing on the screen actually is. And the other one is how we have 30-day periods where we're completely accountable to the process every single day. How we do all of this, right? How we basically set up this operating machine behind the scenes on, say, ChatGPT or any AI platform. You can do it anything itself. So I'm going to start off here giving you some context as to what it is we're doing, the ideas behind it, the reasoning, and the strategy behind it as well. So a bit of training, a bit of education, and then we're going to be diving into the SOP, the process, and of course, I'll be showing you the tool itself as well that you'll be able to use. I'll send it out in the group after this call as well. So this is all about something called the inverse framework, and I heard this on podcasts and such, and I sort of over the last year or so, 18 months, and I guess I tweaked it to fit what I'm trying to do myself. And I had some good concepts. The idea was there. Basically, that one sentence was already there, and I built on top of that to basically customize it for what I'm trying to do myself. The inverse framework. The idea is, what is the number one thing that guarantees I fail? So when there's something I don't want to do, like for example, paid advertising, it's not always a perfect picture, right? Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes there are volatile weeks. Last week was a bloodbath, right? Bloodbath on the paid ad site. And you get weeks like that sometimes, and that's perfectly okay. But the natural instinct is to retreat, right? The natural instinct, for me at least, is to say, oh, whoa. Let me just slow down a little bit and recoup or recalibrate. But in reality, the number one thing that guarantees I fail is if I don't aggressively push forward with paid advertising, right? So even though in my head I don't want to do it, even though I think, oh, it's volatile, I'm cautious. This sentence here has me, terrible lines, I appreciate that, but this sentence here has me taking action when I typically wouldn't have taken action. So what's the number one thing that guarantees that I fail? And what we're going to do today is we're going to build your operating system backwards and then essentially get to a position where we've got a 30-day plan laid out for this as well. So one very important question that everybody asks is, what do I need to do to succeed? What should I be doing every single day? And that's actually a very, very difficult question to answer because there are a million things you could be doing. And every one of them is true. You could have a list the length of your arm, if not, if you remember back in the day, Stretch Armstrong, those toys with the really stretchy arms. I don't know why that popped into my head, but that's what I thought of, right? You could have a list as long as Stretch Armstrong's arm, and it would never end. You could have to work hard, stay consistent, build good offers, learn sales leads, create content, follow up, improve your product. You could argue a case for doing every one of these things and having a necessity for every one of these things. And what they do is they get in your way, right? They get in the way of what you have to be doing. So If you were to consistently ask, what do I have to do tomorrow? You'll never get to an answer because there's a million things you could do. Yes, we have to do them, but they won't necessarily tell you how to progress. So we're going to ask a completely different question today. Instead of asking, how do I succeed? I always ask, what would guarantee that I fail? You know, if I were to do a certain series of things, what would I do that would guarantee that I fail? If I wanted to deliberately destroy everything I have, if I wanted to deliberately mess it up, and if I wanted to intentionally make zero progress, what actions would I take right now that would guarantee that I could destroy everything? Think about your business. What would you do, right? What would you do that guarantees that you completely fail? What are the things that you'd be thinking? What are the things that you'd be doing? And this is essentially called the anti-business plan, right? The things that would guarantee failure. Think about this, right? Well, if I constantly change direction, I'll guarantee that I fail because I'll never stick to anything, never stick with one strategy long enough to become good at it. Very, very common one. Avoid talking to potential customers, always stay in the build mode, right? And never actually go out to the sales component. Consume significantly more content than you would than you execute, right? If you spend your time in consumption mode learning, but you never get to the point of execution, you're going to fail. It's not going to work for you, right? Spending your time on low value work. Again, if we're always spending our time making things look nice, but we're never actually getting to the needle moving activities, i.e. over here, you're going to guarantee that you fail. If you stop following up, if you constantly compare yourself to other people, you're never going to feel good enough. You're going to have imposter syndrome. So when we think about things like, and you'll see how this fits into place in a few seconds as like a jigsaw puzzle, right? Like things like imposter syndrome or self-jeopardization or shiny object syndrome, you'll see how these all fit in different ways, probably a little differently than you've normally heard them. But the reality is, if you're constantly comparing yourself to others, you'll never feel good enough. And as a result, if you don't feel good enough, you'll end up losing your motivation and not taking action, which of course leads to failure. If you change your offer every few weeks, you'll never reach the point of mastery. If you chase every new opportunity, you'll never build up enough momentum to make progress with any of them. If you work inconsistently, if you make decisions based on your emotions. That was a huge one for me. Huge one. Because in my head at times, it's like Groundhog Day every morning, right? I've got this very weird behavior or habit, let's say, where I can wake up and I can forget everything that I thought yesterday. And it can be a good thing during hard times because I can just forget that yesterday was a rough day, right? I'll wake up fresh. But again, if I've made a commitment to something, I forget about it the next day. I wake up and then I start making decisions based on how I feel that day. So even though I said yesterday I'm going to stay committed to something, if I wake up feeling tired, I can make decisions based on that and do nothing, right? Huge one for me. Maybe some of you can relate to that as well. Making decisions based on your emotions. Avoiding anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. Again, a big one in many different lights, right? Maybe speaking to people makes you uncomfortable. Maybe sales makes you uncomfortable. Maybe transacting with someone makes you feel uncomfortable. For me, maybe it is reaching, I've spoken before on these calls how I grew up with a bit of a scarcity mindset where we did have issues growing up, like we did lose a lot growing up and things like that. So I've got a very protective and scarce mindset. That's my default. So for me, pushing the boat out a little bit and spending more and more and more on advertising, even though some days it's not perfect, you better believe that makes me uncomfortable. You better believe it does. So just like everybody else, I'm still battling these things, and it's very hard to battle your instincts. If you never measure your activity or judge strategies before you've generated enough data, any meaningful amounts of data, or spending hours working without doing anything capable of producing revenue, money-making activities, needle-moving activities. So Very easy for us to say all of these things, right? These things would guarantee that we never actually make any progress. But the most important part, especially if we're looking to essentially, overcome our default behavior or natural instinct, very difficult thing to do. So why are we trying to do it ourselves? Everyone uses AI for research. What if we use AI to essentially overcome the default behavior, to give us the support of doing so? Why don't we use AI like our personal trainer? A personal trainer's purpose is to help you overcome your natural desire to do nothing, right? That's the idea, to go off plan. That's what a personal trainer is supposed to do. That's why there's such a big business. People need the help. We all need the help. Well, there's nothing like that in business, right? Well, with AI, we can create that. And that's the concept. That's the idea. Not going this alone anymore. Now, when we identify what guarantees that we fail, it becomes quite predictable, right? We know why something isn't working. We can predict why it fails. And that becomes very, very useful because now we've got something that we can do the direct opposite of, the inverse of, right? That's the idea. What I want to do is I want to take all the things that guarantee that I fail and I want to do the exact opposite of them to succeed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build your failure formula with AI, and we're going to use, I've got the SOP. So after the call, you can do this through your own ChatGPT account, or you can use the tool that we've prepared, the works. But I'm going to show you the prompts. As I said, there's an SOP for this as well. So don't worry about trying to remember the prompts or copy and I don't even know if you can copy and paste from the slides. We've got the SOP for you. You do not have to worry about this. I'm going to take you through exactly what happens on any AI platform and show you what we have to do to basically build this failure formula and your operating framework. So the first thing that we have to do is we want to tell ChatGPT about your business, your offer, the niche that you serve or you want to serve, your current situation, where you are right now, all the personal stuff, right? What is it you struggle with? Things like that. And they don't have to be refined thoughts. It can just be you essentially spitballing on a piece of paper, right? What is it you struggle with? What do you think your problem is? What are your goals? How are you getting customers right now? Or how do you want to get customers right now? What do you struggle with? And what it's going to help you do is basically create this ranked list of the behaviors, the decisions, the habits, the distractions that would make your failure almost inevitable, right? That's the idea. And it's going to be specific to you and it's not generic advice. That's the most important part. If you try to do this yourself, independently of what I'm going to show you here, you're going to get the fluff. And the fluff is essentially the agreeable nature of any AI platform that gives you more generalized, generic advice based on the entrepreneurial space, right? That's what it's going to do. It's not custom to you. What I'm creating here is the ability for you to essentially have your own personal trainer in your back pocket that knows you and knows what you have to do. So here's the first prompt that we're going to use. This first prompt is a failure blueprint prompt. I'm going to give you information about my business goals, current strategy, and behavior. I don't want you to tell me how to succeed yet. Instead, use inversion. Assume my objective is to guarantee that I fail to achieve my goal over the next 12 months. Identify the behaviors, decisions, habits, and distractions that would make failure almost inevitable. Pay particular attention to how I spend my time, inconsistent execution, avoiding uncomfortable activities, shiny object syndrome. I think we can all agree that we've probably had a little dose of that before. Changing strategies too quickly, poor decision making, lack of follow-up, consuming instead of implementing, failing to measure inputs, and activities that feel productive but don't create customers. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to make sure that everyone is muted, otherwise it impacts the back-end audio. Okay, we're good. Now, what it's going to do is it's then going to rank them from the most destructive to the least destructive. And of course, we're telling it to be specific to your situation rather than giving generic entrepreneurial advice. This is the first prompt, right? And what it does is it pulls information out of you. If it has additional questions about what it is you struggle with, it will ask, it will basically pull these out of you one by one. And on top of that, as we progress, what you're going to see on the SOP is that we do check-ins with this, right? This is going to learn your behavior. This is going to learn what you do, and then it's going to be able to tell you exactly what your problem is. I always talk about being very, very starkly honest with ourselves, being harsh, almost to the point of critical of ourselves. Very important. I am always my harshest or most harsh critic, right? It's always me, for sure, without a single doubt. I'm so hard on it, but it works. It works very, very well for me. And it's because when I'm thinking, does a strategy work? Does this work? What this system allows me to do is it allows AI to essentially tell me, well, yes, you did do some of it, but you didn't really execute to the full extent of what you said you were going to do. You missed parts. The strategy is not your problem. It's the execution that's a problem. You might think you're making progress emotionally. You might think that you're working hard, but do the facts say that we're working hard? Do the facts tell us that we did exactly what we said we were going to do? What this does is going to create this framework, and essentially essentially like a tool, right? It creates this tool for yourself that tracks everything that you do. Now, what it will then do with the second prompt is we have to find your number one failure lever. The second prompt is, if you could choose only one behavior from this list that would make my failure most likely, which would it be? Explain why this behavior is particularly dangerous for my situation and what other negative behaviors it creates downstream. So this is about you basically creating or having this realization, this moment of, I understand the problems that I have. I understand, for example, if I again, I'll make this very, very personal and give you insight. I know if I'm not growing fast enough, it's because my behavior 6 months ago wasn't aggressive enough. That's just the number one factor, right? But I might think, oh, something's not working or some other reason or excuse. But the reality is, my data tells me it's simply because my downstream or upstream at that point, upstream behavior 6 months ago wasn't aggressive enough, which then never led to the downstream outcome that I wanted. And what we find is that the problems compound. This helps you actually identify what the true source of your problem is. What might look like 6 different problems might actually be one problem creating 5 others. And that's why we're trying to identify what your number one failure lever is. If we find out what that is, then all of a sudden we can start to find the true problem that you're struggling with, right? What is it that holds you back personally on a personal basis, custom to you? What is it that holds you back? What are all the other stuff that happens to you? Are they circumstantial? Are they reactive? Are they a result of what you've done before? Is there one piece of the pillar that isn't working for you, and that's creating the rest of the problems? Makes it a lot easier to fix, right? Now, think about it like this. If the root behavior is constantly changing strategy, say shiny object syndrome, you might think, well, something doesn't work, so I've got to keep changing strategy till I find the one that does. And what looks like 6 different problems might actually only be one. So think about this. You might have inconsistent execution. You might have insufficient data. You might never reach mastery. You might have to rebuild constantly. You might not be selling enough. You might have lower confidence. But it's all because of this one thing, right? If you're constantly changing strategy, of course your execution is going to be inconsistent because it's always changing. Of course you never build up enough data. Of course you don't feel confident in what you're doing with these two. Of course you're not going to sell enough and have the confidence in selling because you haven't done it enough. And of course you're going to always feel like you're building something because you are. So these problems are not your problem. You've got one problem. It's constantly changing strategies. So what we're doing here is we're identifying what the true problem actually is. Now, what we need to do now is we have to build your failure decision tree. Your failure decision tree. And your third prompt here is walk me step by step through the decision-making process that will lead me towards failure. Start with the trigger, very, very important. And show me how one seemingly harmless decision compounds into another. This is so revealing. I can't tell you how this gives you that light bulb moment. And not from a necessarily a, it's not a light bulb idea moment of positivity. It's that's what keeps happening. That's why I keep struggling. And if you ever felt that excitement when you finally uncover what the true problem that holds you back actually is, it's going to give you that feeling, because you're going to realize what triggers it, what causes all of these things that create these consequences, what stops you making that progress 6 months down the line. It may have been one single trigger. And if we fix that one trigger, all of a sudden, the floodgates never open for you. They stay closed. So you don't drown, or you don't feel like you're drowning. You don't feel like you're treading water. You don't feel like you're struggling, because we never let it in, right? So everything is always going to come from a trigger, which leads to a thought. It leads to you making a decision. You then take a certain action. You face the immediate consequences. Then over time, you start to see the long-term, more painful consequences seeping into your life. That's what typically happens. Think about it like weight loss, right? The trigger could be that you felt, something bad happened during the day. Maybe you just had a bad day, right? You were walking along the road and a car came and splashed a puddle all over you, and it was pretty terrible. You didn't like it. You weren't happy. And as a result, you went home, you ate a pizza because you felt bad, right? You ate a pizza, you felt bad. And then as you progressed, you made a decision and you took an action of eating that pizza. You thought, you know what, I could feel good tonight. I'm going to make the decision to eat a pizza. Immediate consequences, you feel terrible. The long-term consequences, the next day, you still feel terrible. And then you have another thought because you feel terrible. Oh, I want a cheeseburger this time. You make the decision, you take the action, immediate consequence, long-term consequence, and you see how this just starts to cycle over and over and over again. It was all caused by this one trigger. So the idea here is, if we can identify the one trigger that you're struggling with, the one thing that's setting you off personally, that causes all of those knock-on effects, and we can just crush it right now, you're going to start to feel that unlock. You're going to start feeling the unlock. For me, from an ads perspective, I always use it because it's the biggest thing for me, right? For me, is the biggest thing is spending so aggressively. And the trigger was always that scarcity thinking. It was always, I don't want to take too much risk. I don't want to put people in that situation. For me, what I did was I had a conversation with the people close to me, and I said, if I get this wrong, what's going to happen? Are you okay if I get it wrong? And they said, yeah. If we're happy to deal with the worst case scenario if you get it wrong, which could be losing 50, 60, 70,000, right? If I get it wrong, because I have to commit to it. Were they okay with that? Yeah, we had the conversation. That meant the trigger was no longer there for me, which led me to acting aggressively, doing those things, because I was no longer going through this thought and decision process as a result of that. That's the key. So the trigger is very important. Now, we can essentially trace all of these harmless decisions. So for example, a trigger could be, my outreach isn't generating responses. The thought could be, maybe this strategy doesn't work for me. The decision, I'll try something different. The action you take, you spend 3 days learning a new acquisition method. Immediate consequence, you feel productive and motivated again. Long-term consequence, you never generate enough repetitions to become good at the original strategy. And then, of course, with this new strategy, the cycle repeats itself. right? You try some other model. Oh, I'm not getting that response. The cycle repeats itself. This happens over and over and over and over again. And this is the truth behind shiny object syndrome. It's not just jumping from one thing to the next. It's this process. This is what it is. If you were to see it written down, this is what it looks like. Very simple, harmless decisions that result in just this endless, never-ending cycle that keeps you stuck. That's the idea. So we've got to stop it here at the trigger point. That's the most important part of all of this. So, as I said, this in itself is shiny object syndrome. Everyone describes shiny object syndrome as jumping from one thing to the next to the next. It's, basically being distracted by the shiny keys like a baby would be, right? It isn't just I like to try new things. Shiny object syndrome is basically, it's not quite a disorder, but it's this mental arithmetic that we do to make ourselves feel good. And it goes far deeper than just jumping from one idea to the next idea. It actually is in every single component of the actions that we take. It's a decision-making failure. That's what it is. Because the shiny object often appears exactly when the current strategy becomes uncomfortable. We've all felt that before, right? If something feels as if it isn't getting the traction that you're hoping for, if you're having to speak to people and you're not comfortable speaking to people, well, what if I have a more automated way? What if I could do it more automated? If you're not comfortable writing copy, what if I can use AI? Whenever we feel uncomfortable, that's when we're most susceptible to shiny object syndrome. That's when it will impact us the most, the greatest. So we've all heard the saying that success is at the other side of discomfort. That's why, because everybody else, if there's a line and success is over here and everyone's here, and this line is discomfort, everybody's just bouncing around here. But to get to the success, we've got to go through it. That's why it works. So shiny object syndrome just keeps us bouncing around in this land where we feel excited, we feel comfortable. We're excited because we don't have any rejection yet. The world hasn't rejected us. People haven't told us no, in not even just verbally, but through not clicking or not responding or whatever. We've got possibility without the evidence that tells us it doesn't work or won't work or might not work or might be harder than we first thought. And it also makes us feel as if we're making progress without the discomfort of rejection or doubting ourselves. We can just stay in this little bubble, but it resets the scoreboard every single time. All that experience you build up, you reset it. But we need the experience. We need you to have that personal experience and to build your confidence up. And the only way that happens is if you push through to the point or push through discomfort. Right? We have to be in this discomfort, this uncomfortable position. Absolutely paramount. I'm uncomfortable every day. And if I'm not uncomfortable, I'm not happy. And I tell you that. Was it always like that? Of course not. I had to learn for that to be the case. I had to start to enjoy the discomfort. And I'm never going to tell you, I'm never ever going to tell you that I enjoy discomfort. I do not. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But what I hate more is actually the feeling of comfort, believe it or not. And the reason I hate that more is because it feels like stagnation to me now. If I'm not uncomfortable, I'm not moving forwards. So instead of, again, like I said at the start of this, we're not going to try and push against your natural human behavior. That's not what we're going to try and do. Very hard thing to do. So we're not going to try and get you to feel comfortable with discomfort. That's not what we're going to get you to do. What I'm going to get you to do is I'm going to get you uncomfortable with stagnation. That's the difference. If you're so uncomfortable because you're stagnating, because you're not moving forwards, if you're so uncomfortable with the fear that the world is running away from you, with the fear that others are getting ahead of you when it should be you, with the fear that when someone else has been presented the same opportunities as you have, that that person has the same day that you have, has woken up, has the same amount of hours as you have, and they've done something entirely different than you did with it, I want you to get more uncomfortable with that thought than the idea or the discomfort of pushing through lead generation, or pushing through sales calls, or pushing through that discomfort of transacting with a client and then delivering. It's all about what we're uncomfortable with, right? And I want you, probably is that somewhat of a hard-hitting thought when I say to you, look, we're all presented with the same 24 hours in a day, and it's very easy to say that, but the reality is we are, right? Every one of us is presented with the same opportunity. We've all got access to the same tools, especially with AI now. We've all got access to everything that we need. There's nothing more. If there's two people who have the same access, the same tools, the same resources, are you comfortable with the idea that someone is taking bigger advantage of it than you are with the same day? I'm not. That's why I work so hard. That's why people question how on earth I do it, right? With going around the clock, right? That's the idea, because I'm not willing to let someone else have the same opportunity and take what's mine. I'm not going to let that happen. So I get so uncomfortable psychologically with that reality that it helps me push through the discomfort of spending a fortune on paid advertising. It lets me push through all of that stuff and just bulldoze forwards. So that's the idea. I don't want you to master the art of getting comfortable with what you're not comfortable with. I want you to be extremely uncomfortable staying stagnant or remaining stagnant, of letting others get ahead of you. If you start to do that, you shift into a new gear. So let's progress. Another idea behind this, another way to explain this is, let's say you had 30 sales calls, nobody closed. You're confronting the uncomfortable evidence, right? So instead of improving your sales capabilities, instead of doing the hard stuff and taking more calls, more repetitions to master the process, maybe you want to switch niches, or you're going to become a beginner again. Maybe you want a new business model, beginner again. New acquisition strategy, beginner again. This is self-sabotage. That's what it is. It's not just, everyone thinks it's just actively sitting and watching television instead of doing work. It doesn't work. It's not just that. You can have the greatest intentions for yourself, but still be self-sabotaging. You can be doing all of the stuff that you want to be doing, but still be self-sabotaging yourself. So even if you feel as if, you know what, maybe switching niches will be good for me. Maybe that's where the win is. Maybe that's where I've got to go. Maybe a new business model, maybe trying a new strategy here for leads, whatever it might be. You're sabotaging yourself, because you're never getting to the point where you overcome this problem. All you're doing is changing the problem that you have. You're avoiding becoming uncomfortable. So we have to take the bull by the horns here, right? We have to say, look, what is the true problem? And this is where the AI is going to reveal it to us. What is the true problem that we're struggling with? Let's tackle that problem and get really, really uncomfortable with it. Because otherwise, you're going to sabotage yourself. And when we combine self-sabotage with shiny object syndrome, you start to see where the loop begins, right? The loop starts to present itself. You want the self-sabotage so you never feel uncomfortable. You want the shiny object because it makes you feel good and excited again. And it works. That's a perfect circle, right? You have the shiny object syndrome, you do something, makes you feel excited. Things get tough right about here. Then instead of progressing onwards, you self-sabotage and you change things. Shiny object syndrome kicks in, you do it again. It's a perfect circle, right? It just repeats itself in a loop over and over and over again. And there's something called escape velocity. And that's essentially, it can be used in lots of different ways, different examples, but escape velocity with this context is where we break out of this self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, shiny object syndrome loop. That's escape velocity. Once you pass that, that's when true progress is going to be unlocked. So now back to the AI components here. Now we have to invert everything, okay? We're going to turn it all upside down, every piece of this. And we're going to ask the AI, this is the fourth prompt now. And remember, this is all in an SOP. You don't have to worry about this, the prompting, etc. I've got the entire playbook. And as I said, I've also built a tool for you that will pull this all this information out naturally for you, and it will prepare the entire strategy and blueprint for you. So don't worry about any of this, okay? We now have to invert the failure blueprint. For every behavior that increases my probability of failure, create the opposite behavior. Turn each one into a specific operating principle that I can follow. I don't want motivational advice. I want observable behaviors. So what we're saying is, if we've identified all of the actions that guarantee that we fail, now we want to take those actions, invert them, and create the to-do list, right? I told you earlier, if we were to think about what should I do today to move my business forwards, you could create a list of everything. Well, if we've identified the top priorities that will make us fail, the best place to start for your to-do list is do the direct opposite of that, but not through concept, not through idea, observable behaviors. And this word here is the most important word, observable. So we're not saying be more disciplined. We're not saying stay focused. We're not saying believe in yourself. Everything has to have an answer, a yes or no answer at 6 p.m. that night or whenever you clock off, right? With no interpretation required. Why? The more interpretation, the more thinking you have to do, the less consistent you will become with this process, which then leads to guaranteed failure. Consistency. If we're not consistent, we guarantee failure. Invert that. We must be consistent. So we've got to keep things simple, because again, the day where you feel fired up and you can answer a million questions, great, but we're not preparing for that day. The day that we're preparing for is when you're exhausted, when you're, just like Ridwan was saying, feels burnt out. That's the day we're preparing for, because we still have to execute. Because remember, consistency, right? We have to still execute when we don't feel like it. So let's create a system that makes it easy for us to do. So the inverse behavior has to be something that is tangible. Did I do it? A behavior that you can answer yes or no to at 6 p.m. Very, very simple and straightforward. And here's the inversion table, just for example purposes here. Okay, there's obviously, you could have a bunch of these, but just a few examples. If we're saying we're constantly changing strategies, that's unmeasurable. We have to commit to one acquisition strategy for 30 days before evaluating it, because after 30 days, we can say, did we commit to it? Yes or no. Very simple, right? There's no gray areas. You can create gray areas, but the rule is we do not do that. We're very, very critical. We're very harsh with it. Did we do this for 30 days straight with no slacking? Yes or no? Not, oh, I did it most days. Nope. Yes or no. That's how harsh we have to be. What about work harder? Well, the tangible version of that is complete 50 outbound contacts before doing any admin work. So in the morning, sending 50 emails, right, to prospects before doing the admin work. 6 p.m. that day, the answer is simple. Did we do it? Yes or no? I'm not asking how many did we send? Did we get close to it? Did we send 30? No. The question is simple. Did we do this? Yes or no? Be consistent. For example, publish one piece of content Monday to Friday. Very, very simple again, right? Did we do it? Yes or no? You see the pattern as to where we're going with this, right? Yes or no? And we're going to fall off, and we're going to cover that in a few seconds, but we can fall off, but there's important rules to follow. Or if it's follow up more as well, right? Did we clear every prospect requiring follow-up before 4 p.m. that day? Yes or no? That's the inversion table. Now, what we're doing here is we're taking mindset and we're turning it into behavior, right? And the reason this works and it becomes so powerful and so effective is because a mindset is intangible. It's something that we can argue with, we can bring emotion into on a bad morning. A behavior can only be done or not done. Very, very simple. Do we do it or do we not do it? One is a feeling that you negotiate. The other is just a yes or no, a checkbox. Was it done? Was it not done? Right? And I'm a big golfer, as many of you know, and golf actually has the perfect analogy, and even football, soccer, etc. On a golf scorecard, the classic saying is that there are no pictures on a scorecard, right? So whatever the number says is what you got. Doesn't matter how you got there. You may have had a terrible day where you just got away with it. The scorecard doesn't say that. Those are our bad days. Business doesn't have a picture on the scorecard either. It's either we did it or we didn't do it. If you look back in 12 months' time and you looked at your scorecard, you're not going to remember if you felt good or bad that day. All you can see is, did I do it or did I not do it? So this is the way we have to operate. This is how we build that consistency. Then we have to separate outcomes from inputs. You cannot control how many people buy or whether somebody says yes or your revenue. What you can control is how many people you approach, whether you follow up, and the activities that you do that create opportunities for revenue. Not revenue. You can't make someone pull out their credit card. You can't take them by the ear and then, and I mean, I'd certainly recommend you don't make them type in their credit card. I think that would be on the news if you did that, the hostage situation all over an AI employee, right? We don't want to go down that path, but you can ensure that you're creating the opportunity. And the more opportunity we create, the luckier we get, right? The more you do, the luckier you're going to get. Therefore, more prospects will say yes. The more opportunity you create, the more people that will say yes to you. It's this cycle, right? Where it's just the inverse of the negative loop. What I'm doing is I'm now creating the positive loop. So I'm not going to build my day around outcomes. I'm going to build it around controllable inputs. Then we've got the input ladder. So we don't wake up tomorrow thinking, I need to make $10,000. What I have to do is I have to work backwards until the goal becomes this very boring process. Again, this is where AI is coming into play. So imagine your goal is 10,000 per month as fast as humanly possible. As we break this down, we've got to look at the number of customers required to hit that goal, the number of sales conversations required to hit that goal, the number of qualified opportunities to reach that number of sales conversations, and the number of prospects that we have to contact in order to get the number of qualified opportunities. It's like a drip down effect, right? That's how it works. It all moves in this direction. So if we can nail the number of daily actions, we're going to have enough prospects. Have enough prospects, we're going to have enough opportunity. Enough opportunity, we're going to have enough calls. Enough calls, enough customers. Enough customers, enough revenue. So this is just a numbers game. This is the math behind it, right? It's not did you make 10K per day. It's if we've worked this out, did we do it? Did we take enough action? Did we contact 40 businesses today? Simple as that. Yes or no answer. And all of a sudden, your life becomes a lot easier and a lot simpler because it's all incredibly boring. Maybe it is contact 40 businesses today, and that's it. Boring is something you can execute on. And many people have asked me, okay, if I do that, I set up the email system or set up the ads, what do I do after? Like, what do I do? Because if that's automated, what do I do after that? You don't have to do anything after that. That's the beauty in it, right? That's the beauty of automating these systems is you are using AI, you're using automation to your advantage, you're leveraging it. And that's the most important thing. It's not that we're not doing the work. It's that if we've got to be consistent, we're simply setting up systems that allow us to be consistent, that allow us to consistently contact 40 businesses. It's boring, but it's executable. That's the difference. And as a result, we reach the outcome that we want. It's not about being a repetitive task or you not feeling as if you're working. If the yes or no, just like I said earlier, right? There's no negotiation with the yes or no answers. It's not, did you contact 40 businesses? No, I contacted 25. The answer is no. The answer is no. But on the flip, It's not a case of, did you spend 40 hours at the computer to contact 40 businesses? No, you didn't. It's just yes or no. Did you contact 40 businesses? So there's a flip side to this as well, right? Where you don't have to sit at a desk for 40 hours. As long as you do this, you could be on a boat for all you want. You could be swimming. You could be doing whatever you want as long as that's done. That's the reverse side of this. Now, as we continue, we then use AI to build your input system, okay? This is where you can, as you progress, you can update these numbers and you can make them more accurate, etc., etc., etc. Right? You can do that, and it can update, and it will work as you progress. But we essentially want to put your monthly target in there, the average customer value, approximate close rate, appointment show rate, and obviously there's averages. So I'd probably set your average at 20% for this. I would set the appointment show rate at about 75%. And your response conversion rate, I'd even say about 1% to 2% on that one, right? Just as your benchmarks. So at the start, put your benchmarks in here, and then as you progress, you can update it with your own real numbers, which may be higher, they may be lower, but it tells you where to work on. And then we work backwards from that target, and we calculate the weekly and daily controllable inputs required. This is the prompt to remember as well. So we say, where I haven't provided enough information, don't invent certainty. Identify the metric I need to start measuring. And we tell it to give you monthly targets, weekly target, daily controllable inputs, leading indicators, and lagging indicators here. Now you're building your business through maths, not emotion. And that's what we want to do. We basically want to turn ourselves into a machine. Now, we then say, using everything we've identified, create my daily operating system. It must prioritize the actions most directly connected to acquiring customers and generating revenue. Give me a maximum of 5 non-negotiable daily inputs. So when we're thinking about what do we do on a daily basis, this gives us exactly what we do every single day. And what we can do is we can do this daily as well. We can actually have this. I'll show you on the SOP how we do this. But to continue the prompt, make every input binary or measurable. So at the end of the day, I can answer yes or no or enter a number. Include safeguards against the failure behaviors that we identified earlier. So remember the guaranteed failure? Create safeguards against those. Keep the system simple enough that I can realistically follow it every working day for 30 days straight. So what we're creating is this system that gives you your inputs, gives you your actions, but also protects you against the stuff that you told us or told it would guarantee failure for you. And what happens is you end up with essentially a scorecard, right? Where you've got your daily, this is on a daily basis. Did you reach out to 50 prospects today? Did you follow up with prospects today? Did you have sales conversations? Did you publish your content for the day? Did you introduce a new strategy? No, right? There's a curveball in there. The answer to that is no, because that's the shiny object syndrome, okay? So it's providing those safeguards. Imagine you made 0 sales today. You might feel bad. You might feel as if you're not making progress, but was it necessarily unsuccessful? No, it wasn't. You did exactly what you had to do. You created opportunity. And if you do this every single day and you're focusing on the controllable inputs, you're going to win the day. And if you win enough days, the outcome catches up. And all of a sudden, it starts to rain. That's the idea, right? All of a sudden, things start to fall into place. Now we're going to create the anti-sabotage rules. We're going to use everything from our inverse exercise to create rules that surround not falling into the traps that many, many people do around the world. The 7th prompt here is based specifically on my failure blueprint. Create 5 rules that protects me from my own most likely forms of self-sabotage. These should be simple decision rules that I can use when I'm emotional, frustrated, bored, or distracted. So if I've ever thought about, if I was just a machine, it's such a, I often feel, I wouldn't say I'm an emotional person, but I do have a strong sense of justice, right? I have this, I like things to be right, and I like I like people to do the right thing. I like people to respect everybody, and respect us and what we, etc., etc., right? I've got a sense of justice, and some days if I don't feel good, I used to let that get in my way. But what I created was this ecosystem where I could execute and show up. And you've heard that, you've got to show up when nobody's watching, kind of thing, right? Champions show up when nobody's watching, that motivational fluff stuff, right? This is the reality of it, though. I create this machine that allows me to show up when nobody else does. That's how I can show up every single day without fail, because it's not down to how I feel. I've got my to-do list every day, and I just cross it out one by one. And once I'm done, I'm done. That's it. And it's all because I create this operating system. So, examples of 5 rules. No strategy changes during an emotional low. When I don't feel good, I'm not allowed to change strategy. It's just my rules. I have to have enough data before I change anything. New ideas go into the idea parking lot. I just write them down. I don't touch it. I just write them down. I do revenue generating activities before administration, and I never miss twice. Now, what I mean by never miss twice. Now, we'll go through these one by one. No strategy changes during an emotional low. Had a bad day, I do not make any major decisions. I simply record the problem and then I review it later. I get data before I pivot. So before saying this doesn't work, I actually identify exactly how many repetitions I've completed. 5 sales calls, it's not enough data. 20 emails, 3 videos, not enough data. None of this is enough. Don't confuse insufficient execution with failure. It's not the same thing, okay? I will not make decisions until I've sent 2,000-3,000 emails. I will not make decisions until I've spent $1,000+ on ads. I just do not touch it. That's my rule. The reality is I have to follow my process religiously. Now, new ideas go into the parking lot. I don't ignore them. Sometimes I have good ideas, right? We all do, but I write it down. I don't execute on it. I ensure I have my to-do list done before I even think about it. I just write it down. Creativity is not what you're struggling with. It's the inability to decide not now. Doesn't mean it's not the idea. It's just not right now. That's the difference. Revenue activities before admin. Before I do anything, before I change websites, tweak anything, organize anything, consume training, I complete an activity capable of creating a customer. Emails, ad creative, videos, etc. Revenue generating activities. I do that first before I do anything else, because it means I never miss twice. Bad days are going to happen. There are going to be days where you do not feel good. There are going to be days where you miss your inputs, and that's perfectly okay. The danger isn't one bad day. It's allowing one bad day to become the pattern. Okay. So when we have that bad day, which is inevitable, we're all going to have it. We have to get back up immediately the next day with no excuses, nothing. Never go 2 days without doing it. Never, ever go 2 days without doing it. If you go past the 2-day mark, it's so much more difficult to get back on. So much harder. But yet it's so easy just to, the next day, just get back up. Do the bare minimum if you have to, but do it. Now, we're then going to create a 30-day focused sprint. So we've got one goal. What specific outcome are we pursuing? We've got one offer. What are we selling? One market. Who are we selling to? And one acquisition strategy. How are we reaching them? Then, of course, our 3 to 5 daily inputs. What activities must happen regardless of how you feel? And 5 anti-sabotage rules. What aren't you allowed to do? Right? That's the whole framework. That's exactly what we're building here. Then you've got one parking lot. This is where we put all of those amazing ideas, right? Every day. Mine's is huge. You should see it. Like an entire journal. But all my ideas go here. And it doesn't mean I'll never execute on them, but they all go in here. Okay. They do not go ahead or get priority over my non-negotiable activities. And then what I do is I let AI become the daily accountability system as well. So at the beginning of the day, give this prompt to your operating system. The morning prompt is, these are my non-negotiable inputs today. Help me prioritize my day around completing them before lower value work. If I suggest activities outside of my 30-day focus sprint challenge, whether they're genuinely necessary or whether I'm displaying one of the failure behaviors that we've identified, this is going to call you out, right? AI isn't another shiny object. AI becomes the system that protects you from those shiny objects. And then at the end of the day, what we're going to do is we're going to score the execution. So here's the prompt. Score my execution today. Don't score me based on revenue or outcomes. Score me based on whether I completed the controllable inputs in my daily operating system. Identify what I completed, what I missed, where I self-sabotaged, and what distracted me. And you have to be honest with this, right? And you'll benefit so much from just being honest. And of course, the one correction I should make tomorrow. Do not recommend changing my strategy based on one day's results. So the daily loop here is, in the morning, we prioritize the inputs. Evening, we score the inputs. And tomorrow, we allow for one correction. And one day, we are never making decisions based on one single day. And then we're getting towards the end of this now. The 10th prompt, we do this once a week, not every 5 minutes. And I appreciate it. I'm going through a lot of stuff here. This is in a very simple SOP. I'm explaining a lot more here just for context, but there's a very simple SOP and tool for you to do this with. The prompt here is, review my last 7 days, separate execution problems from strategy problems. Do not recommend changing strategy simply because results were disappointing. First, determine whether I completed enough of my planned inputs to fairly evaluate the strategy. Then we've got to review this weekly and do the daily execution. It only works if you are consistent with it, right? Now, very simple things to do. There's a framework for it that allows you to be consistent, but you have to be consistent. Checking your results every few hours is how you get an emotional aspects involved in your decision-making process. Checking ad data every few hours, it's going to kill you. 7 days of data is worth the review. That's the idea. We only do it after 7 days. So it's then going to show us inputs or outputs or conversion or bottlenecks and our next adjustment. Gives us all the answers, basically, right? And the distinction is pretty big. If you planned 250 outreaches, but the data says that you only did 73, we don't have a strategy problem. It's basically execution, right? We're not doing it. But you might feel tired after this. You might feel as if, well, I did send some emails. I didn't get the response. We didn't do what we said we were going to do up here. This allows emotion, whereas the yes or no answer, did we do this? Yes or no? Because that isn't doing it. And that's going to help you overcome a lot of the problems. So execution is a big pitfall. And then, of course, you've got the 30-day contract as well, okay, which is essentially the blueprint you're creating with the AI system. So you've got a 30-day goal, your offer, your market, your acquisition strategy, your daily inputs. Then you've got your failure behaviors. You've got your action to take when you notice it, things you're not allowed to change, and your shiny object parking lot. You'll be amazed what this does. We've all heard Jim Carrey, right, who signed that check to himself for, I don't know, can't remember the details, but it was like for millions of dollars for an acting role years and years down the line, materialized for him, right? Because it's psychological. It's a bit of manifestation, but it's also Once you've made, we're so good, all of us are so good at keeping promises we make to other people, but terrible at making promises we keep to ourselves, or we make to ourselves. We're terrible at it, right? You go over and above for other people, but that thing that you said you would do for yourself, that always hits the wayside every single time. How many of us can relate to that, right? Always doing things for other people, but never giving ourselves the same level of respect. This is giving ourselves the same level of respect. This is how we do it. So you make that promise to yourself, you make it visible, and you are very, very specific with it. The key is to be specific, not generalized. The idea behind this is, what should I do today? That's a terrible way to do things, because the answer changes depending on how you feel, what videos you watch that day, if it gets you excited, when somebody posted on Facebook, or what they said, through doubt in your mind about something, you read someone's opinion. Everyone has opinions about something, and they're always engineered and framed to benefit themselves. You read that from a no context perspective, and you just consume it as written word, right? But you don't have the context of what they're trying to push you towards. So you can emotionally react to that, but it means nothing to you. Maybe some new AI tool launched and you get shiny object syndrome. Maybe yesterday went well or didn't go well. You react to that. So we don't want to think about what we should today. We make those decisions once, and that's it. We build the framework, we determine the inputs, and we create the rules. Then we spend the next 30 days executing them. And this is essentially the inverse framework. What would guarantee you fail? What decisions would create that failure? What is the inverse of those decisions, the direct opposite? What behaviors produce those decisions? What inputs create the outcome I actually want? What do I need to execute every day? And how long will I commit before I allow myself to reconsider? That's all I've got to do. That's it. There are thousands of ways that you might succeed, but some behaviors make failure very, very predictable. Never sticking with anything, constantly starting again, avoiding uncomfortable work, consuming instead of executing, making emotional decisions, working without measuring, judging results without enough data, and chasing every shiny object that crosses your screen. You don't need to predict the path to success. You just avoid the path to failure. That's it. How many times have you heard success stories from super, super successful people that said, I just watched what everybody else was doing wrong and didn't do those things? I've heard it so many times. Restaurants are a big one. Successful restaurants, they just didn't do the things that the other companies did. They didn't have terrible customer service. They just didn't do that. They didn't skimp on ingredients. They didn't skimp on food or cut things, or they weren't slow. That's all it was. If you've ever watched Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, I loved that show. It was so simple. All he did was he would walk in the restaurants that were failing and just said, don't do the stupid stuff you're doing. That's what the people that fail do. Don't do that stuff. You don't even have to do the amazing right stuff. It wasn't revolutionary. It was simply, don't do the stupid stuff. That was it. And it worked. So use AI to identify your patterns. Use AI to reverse them. Calculate your inputs and build the direction that you have to take. That is what we do. We don't negotiate with the plan. Your job is not to wake up every morning and decide what strategy you're going to follow. You've already made that decision. You've already committed to yourself. Your only job is to execute the inputs, then wake up tomorrow and do it again. Now, we have an SOP for this process already prepared for you. I'm going to share my screen here. This is the entire SOP, okay? And there's two ways to do this. The first way is with ChatGPT, depends on which one you prefer to use. Again, I've got the tool built out on GenSpark, but you don't have to have a paid account or anything for that. You can get the free account for it and you can use it without any issues. But if you prefer ChatGPT, for example, or any one that allows you to use projects, you can do this. So essentially, this is the entire SOP that we operate with. And we have the core rules. What we do is we build it out as a project overall. And then we have multiple different chats within that individual project. So as you come down, the project name is 30-day focus sprint, and you put maybe like, September or whatever you want in there. And we're going to keep all of these elements within the project itself. And you build your first chat, right? Which is build my operating system. And this is where we're going to be using these prompts. All the prompts are already there for you, okay? We're using these prompts, and we're not going to start another conversation here. We're going to continue in this chat and use the second prompt. We continue again, and we build the decision tree. That starts to build that pathway we were talking about, the results, the triggers, and such. Then we're going to, in the same chat, ask it to invert. As we continue, it's then going to build your input system for you, okay? And then there's a fifth prompt to build your input system. And finally, it's going to create your daily operating system for you. And I'll give you everything, okay? And last, create your anti-sabotage rules in this section here. And then the 30-day contract. But this is this is the main part, the anti-sabotage rules. Then as we progress, this is all in the one chat, you're then going to create a second chat within that project and call it daily accountability. Each day, you're going to put your morning prompt in here, and you're going to have your evening prompt. That's it. You copy and paste and insert the information. That's all you have to do. And once it sees you doing that pattern of doing it morning and evening, you can just say, start my day, score my day, right? And it will understand. You're then going to create another chat called weekly performance review. And this one, of course, you do every day. Okay, that's what you do every day. You create the weekly performance review, and you put this prompt in here over the course of 7 days. And because it's in the same project, it understands everything that's happening. Okay, so it can actually analyze what you've been doing. Then finally, you've got another chat called your shiny object parking lot, and you put it in there. Then you've got this is your final ChatGPT project. You've got your operating system, your daily accountability, your weekly performance review, and your shiny object parking lot. And it gives you the entire machine. And this is your daily routine, morning, during the day, and the evenings. And then you've got your weekly routine, right? After 30 days, you can run the final review on it. And it will tell you, you've got the prompts here for that as well, to do that review. And it will look back, and it will actually show you all of the things you've been doing, what you've been doing right, what you've been doing wrong, where you fell down on the promises you made to yourself, and how you progress forwards. That's the secret in it. So it's going to know everything and be able to analyze everything and essentially become like your personal trainer, like a daily personal trainer, your machine, really, that helps you make progress. Now, that's the ChatGPT blueprint. You can use this on any AI system that you want to, but like I said, we do also have this, the execution architect built out. This is on GenSpark. There's a link to this, and this is what appears. And as I said, you can get a free account. You don't have to do anything. And essentially what it will do, you hit this button, then you prompt it. It will then work for the different questions that it's going to ask you, right? So you remember I said it, tell it what you're the ChatGPT SOP told you to tell it what you were doing. This just pulls it out of you, question by question by question, and this becomes your operating blueprint. You still want to do the weekly accountability. That's very beneficial, but you can do it in here too. But this will pull all that stuff out for you and act as your operating blueprint. So I'll send the link to this tool as well. I will send the link to this SOP into the chat as well. And that is the entire blueprint that I follow in order to maximize my efficiency, my productivity, my success rate. That's exactly what I do. And that's how I do it. On that note, I'm going to open up the room for any questions. It can be about this. It can be about anything that you want. Feel free to ask. Does anybody have any questions they wanted to cover? Feel free. You can unmute yourself. You can ask in the chat, whatever you please. If there are no questions, that's all good as well. But feel free if you do have questions. As I said, it doesn't have to be about this. It can be about what you're working on, general advice. No problems, Zubin. I appreciate it. Ridwan, you're asking, quick question for the training SOPs. Where are they in the portal? It depends on the SOP, but typically they're under the weekly workshops, the corresponding one. So if you go into the live weekly workshop section, they're in there. So you'll find it under. So like the ads training has the ads SOPs underneath it. The funnel training has the funnel SOP, etc., etc. Right? They're under there. Austin, I'm putting them into the WhatsApp. I'll put them in there, those links. Because the second I close this meeting down, it all disappears, as in the chat. So I'll put them in the WhatsApp. Olivier, go for it.
Yeah, just a little thing. I've been trying to, because I uploaded in my agency's AI Legacy 1 and 2 snapshots.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to send to set up the roofer AI part of everything. And when I tried to select, I did the selection and took away everything which was not related to roofers. But then it didn't work out. I had a failure of importing the snapshot in the sub account.
Okay, what I would do,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, it could just be this week because.
Okay. It can just be a bug, a blip.
Yeah.
I will retry it a couple of times, and if still creates a problem, I will. Yeah.
What to do though in the meantime? Because again, it's always good to have workarounds if you ever experience this.
Of course. Yeah.
What to do is just copy the assets into a separate sub account, take another snapshot with only that in it, and try to import that one with just the roofer stuff in. Just duplicate into a sub account the assets that you want, the folders, and that'll work. That's your workarounds. But yeah, I mean, Go High Level has been, honestly, everything has been chaos again. I really think there's something going on behind the scenes that, like, not with Go High Level, not with Facebook, just overall.
Overall, yeah.
That's what I would do.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Zuman, if you have a look at the welcome email, the WhatsApp link is in there as well. If not, just reply to the email that you received, and I'll help you locate it. Okay, I've received the replies to those emails. So let us know if you don't have it. Daryl, is the revised snapshot of the ladder funnel with automations ready? Is the no, I'm not done that yet. That one. The automations are very simple. I think I did an example of them in the work. I don't know if I said I was going to create a snapshot of it, but they're super easy. I did on the last week's recording. I think I did the walkthrough of it. I would just do the same process of those. Just haven't had time yet to do it, to create those additional things for you. Emmanuel, how are ads doing? Yeah, ads have been chaotic over the past week. Absolute bloodbath, to be honest with you. So, and that's, these are, for context, I've had ads running for 7 months at thousands a day, and that usually means there's far more consistent performance, and even those struggled in the past 7 days. So it's been a tricky period this week for ads. And as I said, I think something's going on behind the scenes. That's for sure. I think something is happening that's nobody's telling us in the higher powers of the world. I think something's going on, but this happens from time to time. But yeah, just that's the context. Sydney, did you have a question there, or did you accidentally raise your hand? Even if you want to let me know in the chat. So I just want to make sure you're taken care of as well. All right. Do we have any other questions? Feel free to ask.
Hey, brother.
Hey, Wade.
I don't have any questions. I hate the fact that you tend to always nail me for the things I'm doing wrong.
It's because I come to your house and I look through the window and say, "Oh, Wade's doing that. I've got to bring that up."
Yeah.
Do that thing again.
It irritates the heck out of me. And you and my wife seem to always know what I'm not doing correctly. But this was some good content. I really will benefit from it. And I've never thought about taking, the things that going the flipping the whole thing on its head.
Mm-hmm.
That's I hate how smart you are sometimes.
Yeah, it's it works really well. It just works. To be honest with you, it's just that thing I have in conversation as well. I just, when I speak to people, it's a case of, well, what would guarantee that it doesn't work? What would I do? Well, if I didn't send any emails, it's not going to work. That's for sure. So therefore, I should probably send the emails to avoid it not working as a result of that, right? If and it's always if you don't ask for something, you guarantee you're not going to get it, right? And I was always amazed, rightly or wrongly. Not everyone's correct with it. But just generally in life, what people ask for, like in the day-to-day life, what someone will just go up and ask for, and you think, of course they were going to say no, but sometimes they'll say yes. And I was always amazed at the bold and brashness these people had. And I thought, well, I guess, you look at the worst case scenario of, well, they're just going to say no. I'm happy to deal with that. Yep. Okay. Well, I'll just do it anyway then, because I'm certainly not going to get the outcome I want by not doing it. Right. So yeah, kind of like learning from human behavior, I guess. How was the vacation with your wife to the lake? You never told me.
We haven't done it yet.
Oh, what happened? I thought you were doing
it next weekend.
Oh, okay. Oh, God.
The 28th to the 31st of.
Oh, I thought it was. Why did I thought it was last month.
Oh no, I'm on pins and needles. But also, my wife is the very person. All I have to do is, what do I always do wrong? She's got a long list. She could give it to me. You do this, this, and this, and you always get. I know when you're aggravated when it's not working. So anyway, if y'all have any need to know exactly what it is that you're not doing right, turn to your significant other and say, so what do you think it is?
I don't think we have to turn to them. I think we'll just find out anyway. Without even asking, we'll learn very quickly.
Yeah. Anyway, I've got to step out, but I just wanted to tell you this was a good one. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Zidane, do you have a question? Feel free.
Yes. So my question was regarding A2P. I mean, I got rejected like 4 times right by now, and I did contact support, but and did everything they told me to change, and even used like one of the website templates, but I still keep getting rejected for the same reasons. So I was going to ask, is there any way that I could contact Go High Level support? They can tell me exactly what's going wrong.
We do contact Go High Level support already for you. So what we're telling you is going wrong is most likely what they're telling us is going wrong. So it's the same thing. But when it comes to the A2P, if it's happening consistently, it suggests that there's something underlying that it may be cookied on or something like that, right? Like the terms. So what I'll do is I'll speak to support for you and see if see what they're saying about it. But that's basically what's already happening. Is they're already speaking. They're going on Zoom calls and things like that with Go High Level for you.
Mm-hmm.
Behind the scenes.
Okay, yeah.
That's how it works. But
yeah, please let me know. I mean,
yeah.
I've been like struggling with this for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks right now. Every single time
don't
I
worry,
submit, they get rejected.
Yeah. They don't worry. It's not. They're directly having Zoom calls and stuff with Go High Level. Like they're doing everything. So don't feel as if there's something you're not finding out. You're promise you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, sir.
All right. So I know you're saying, forgive me the broad correct question, I'm still new learning all of this, but I'm trying to understand in my mind how this works if so many of us are running the exact same ads and same automations and funnels, etc. Why would the client choose us over others? And if so many people are coming into this program with the same pre-built systems, what makes each of us different? The reality is that, first of all, there's 26 different niches. And that's a very, very large market. You think about in the US alone, there are 3 million life insurance agents, just in life insurance in the US. And that's one of 26 niches. Then you think about chiropractors, med spas, then you've got roofers and HVAC. There are so many prospects, and that's only the US. Zidane, for example. Zidane, you're in Tunisia, right? Is that right?
Algeria,
that's it. Who's in Tunisia? Someone's in Tunisia. Anyway, he's in Algeria. So, for example, We've got Algeria. Olivier is in the Netherlands. We've got people all over the world operating in different markets. So we're not in one specific market. We're not just in the US. We're literally everywhere across the board. So you think about if there's 3 million life insurance agents in the US, think about how many there are globally. Then to multiply that by 26 different niches. The market is so big that you don't really cross paths, right? And, you know, it's not as if we've got 15,000 people doing this, right? That's not how it works. That's not how it works. It's quite exclusive in that sense. And yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much about that by any means. There's plenty market. And listen, there's plenty market for all of us to get 1,000 customers at $100 or $200 a month recurring, and that's 100 to 200,000 a month. So if you're, as long as you're happy with 1 to 2 million a year, you'll be okay. That's what I would tell you. Let me know if that answers the question. No worries, Christina. You're all good. You're all good. All right, perfect. Does anyone else have any questions? Feel free to ask. Any other questions? No worries. You're welcome. You're welcome. Any last questions before we wrap up for the day? I know, Eugene, you just joined us there, but with the session's recorded. We just wrapped up the session there, but it's recorded. We'll be releasing the recording for you tomorrow, so you'll be able to watch it anyway. You've not missed anything. But if you do have any questions, just let us know. As well, you're welcome, Vaughn. No worries at all. Any last questions before we wrap up for the day? No? No questions? Okay, perfect. Well, as ever, my voice is hoarse. As every Wednesday, it's hoarse from all the talking that I do. And as I said, we'll get this session uploaded for you with the SOPs and the links. I'll send out the SOPs and the links, the link especially tonight, and we'll get the recording up for you as well. Any questions in the meantime, just let us know. And yes, we'll keep on pushing forwards. From there, I've got some exciting stuff coming for you as well in the pipeline. As always, got some new ladder funnels coming, etc., for different markets. And we'll get you taken care of there as well. All right, everyone, thank you for coming. I hope you found that beneficial. As I said, recording will be uploaded very, very soon with the tools and the SOPs too. Any questions, you know where to find us. I'm going to wrap up the call now. See you, everyone. See ya.